How's it going, folks? This is Ben Gessel. How's it going? I know I have quite the beard going on. I might shave it soon. I don't know. I'm gonna be kind of walking around a little bit in my place, doing this video. I'm just cooking a little bit of lunch, and you can kind of see a little bit what I'm cooking here. Actually, let's try. Well, I don't know if you, that was this is a camera thing. I don't know if you, it's anyway. Just broccoli and Swiss chard and some eggs. But you gotta keep an eye on these veggies. They're still kind of de-thawing, cooking a little bit. So this video, though, I'm talking about um, it's something I touched on here and there, but yeah, you'll see what I'm going here. So this is about not just martial arts, but it's about defending yourself. So I'm gonna get some stuff out of the way just really quick here. First off, and I'm not a. This is not something that I'm especially good at, but there are things that you pick up on the more you get into martial arts. Um, so the first thing I want to mention here, first thing, number one, is that uh, one of the things about training in martial arts, or I would say just anything where you're exercising or you're conditioning your body, with weight training, cross country, wrestling, all kinds of stuff, gymnastics, it all helps you be a better fighter, um, all that stuff. And so knowing what you can handle, no matter if you're a very unhealthy couch potato in that condition, which many of us, many people are, not just Americans anymore. It's a lot of folks, and it's okay. It's from a moral perspective, it certainly does. It's okay if you're in a really bad shape, physical shape. That's fine. It's just you're going to be only able to handle certain situations and things in that physical condition. If you have that extreme end, whether or not you're really chubby or not, or you're not in a good physical condition, all the way up to if you're like a Navy SEAL level. Okay. So what was that? My train of thought here is your physical condition impacts very much what you can handle in any situation. Very much. So you want to keep that in mind, and it's very easy to feel bad about yourself if you're not in top condition. But just realize that we can always improve our situation that we're in, no matter what. Yeah, in some cases it's pretty drastic, but it's always worth it to improve your condition anyway, because you want to have a good, healthy life. So it's really important to be positive in your thinking. Really important. And health and longevity and all that physical, all the mental positivity is more important than your fighting ability, or readiness to fight different kinds of foes. So this physical condition is the first thing I want to mention. Second thing is, what do you know? The techniques and that sort of thing. But that's martial arts, and that you kids can. Some things are more effective than other things. Depends on the situation, but some things are going to be more artistic. Some things are going to be more practical. There's a lot of stuff out there already on YouTube. So it's just what you're doing. What's your and how well does it work for you? Is it your physical attributes and that sort of thing. The third thing is, this is somewhat associated with more of the first aspect, is can you take a punch or kick, a really hard punch or kick? And what's your, so it's conditioning, but it's not just what state is your body in. It's, can you take hard blows and how well can you take them? and can you block him? What's your reflexes like, and you're gonna, pain threshold, that sort of thing. Yeah. Um, but this all being said, it's really important to consider things like it's not necessarily how big the other opponent is, especially it's it's more it's kind of a combination again. If you're wanting to know right on the fly, is this going to be a doable situation or not? You have to notice a person's conditioning. Um, Age can be a factor, but it's conditioning more somewhat. But you don't want to hurt old people. It's like, come on. But you know, but it's also you can't really tell how trained someone is. Sorry about that. This phone just keeps going off the hook. I'm gonna just do this real quick here. Um, so the main thing you can notice though is conditioning, and you also should know where you're at in your own physical condition, in skill level in fighting. So sparring is great, and I want to mention also that it's so remote that anybody's going to have a situation where they have to defend themselves, but you never know, it could happen. But what's likely to happen is, in the event of an actual real fight, um, there are some things that you want to do first. You want to have a weapon. And I'm not saying a gun. I'm just saying, like, whoa, let the weapon, or let your method of self-defense serve the situation. So if it's someone that is going to hurt you, and they have a weapon, gosh, if they have a weapon and you have a weapon, even unless you have a gun, don't even. It's time to get out of there and call 911. If they have a weapon, even like a knife or just don't mess with that stuff at all. You have to be very, very high skill level master to even consider using a hand-to-hand weapon in that case. If you have a gun, you can use a gun, but you have to know you have to be willing to shoot that thing. So it's a psychological thing in that case, that you have to be ready to use it in that case. Otherwise, you're going to get shish kebabbed. Now, if you're talking about someone who's unarmed and they're your size, more especially they're your same level of conditioning, it can be dangerous still, but you're probably gonna be okay if you're in decent physical condition and you have a moderate level of ability to defend yourself. But you should say, hey, give them plenty of warning before, yeah. And by all means, call 911 before you instigate anything, or before you even defend yourself. And, because you could be liable to the extent that you are purposely wanting to hurt someone. So you should only be interested in protecting yourself. And you really only want to do minimal damage to someone else. Only enough so that, they leave you alone. If you do more than that, again, that's illegal. The object is not to kill or seriously hurt someone. Now, if you go into the armed forces, that's a different kind of thing, because that's what you're being trained to hurt and kill. And so, as a general rule, by the way, don't mess with anybody who has been, especially in the elite forces. It's not a winning situation. You'd have to be MMA level type fighter to mess with those guys. But in general, just don't mess with guys in the armed forces. They are tough. Probably on par with a lot of cops. Some cops are just big and beefy and not super in shape, but they're really strong. So cops is the same thing too. Plus, you don't mess with cops because it's illegal to do that anyway. And they have weapons and things like that too. They have training. But This is just practical stuff, if there are always situations where you should defend yourself. There are evil cops out there, but it's what's more likely to happen is that you're going to get seriously hurt or killed. Just being realistic, unless again you really know what you're doing and you're Michael J. White, or you're at the level of conditioning and strength and power and skill. So you just want to be realistic about what you can handle. So that all being said, and I'm going to try to make this video too long, so I got to eat here in a second. So I would encourage everybody to learn what they can, do what they can for as little cost as possible. But if you're gonna do something really hardcore, go to a place that's for like legit martial art place, not a dojo, but go with a group of people or friends, because they're gonna work you to the core, and it's gonna be hard to keep going unless you have the group of friends you're going with. And yearly contracts are something you don't want to mess around with. So you have to have time in your schedule and energy to go through that whole year. So you want to think very carefully if you want to commit to that or not. If you don't want to commit to it, not ready to commit to it, maybe a gym is a better option, or just weightlifting. Just improving your physical condition can matter a lot. But again, it's also a question of if you can take a lot of damage. It doesn't matter what someone can dish out. At a certain point, you're talking about certain strikes, like elbows to the nose and stuff. Some strikes are going to be knocked down or worse. So it's just really, really risky to ever get in an actual real fight if you're an adult against another adult. Or teenagers, that sort of thing, because this stuff can put people in the hospital. You can put someone in the hospital, and whether you might think, oh yeah, I can, yeah. But when you don't actually want to do that, I mentioned this in earlier videos. If you put someone in the hospital, you could not only be in serious legal trouble, but you could be in serious, you're the one that's responsible for somebody being paralyzed the rest of their life. Well, why would you want to have that on your conscience, even if you didn't like the guy? Well, a lot of times you don't know the person very well that's going to fight you. People that know each other very well don't really tend to get into fights that way. It's more of a verbal thing. If you don't know someone and you lose your temper with them for whatever reason, that can be more of a physical situation, because you just don't know them very well. So it's really easy to see someone as being. Some people might see. It just depends on the person and how they perceive other people. But it's easier to jump to rash conclusions about someone else if you're more of a volatile person that way. Like, not just the New Yorkers suspecting that you're looking at their girlfriend or whatever. But that's one of the types of or whatever else. Okay, so conditioning, skill level, techniques, and how much damage can you take? All things to carefully consider well before ever getting in a situation. So if you know that you're going to be probably okay, and if you're an adult, don't ever mess with anybody younger than 18 that way. It's absolutely illegal unless you're defending yourself, and only to the extent that they're applying a certain level of force can you apply a certain level of force, and again, just to defend yourself. But just know your opponent. If you're fighting someone in real life who's 7 feet tall, good heavens, man, go for the the groin area if it's a guy, and as fast and as hard as you can, and run the devil away, or just run away. They're going to have a bigger reach. You just want to close that as fast as possible. But again, if we're talking about that size of a person, and if they're more muscular, I just think it's a no-win situation unless you really know what you're doing. At least a real black belt or 2 or 3 or 4 degrees. And even then, you can see masters taken down by some guys if they're not ready for an attack. It's less likely depending on factors, but it's not an impossibility. So most people, so here's the thing, reassuring, here's the main reassuring thing. Most people that are going to possibly actually start something real, like a real fight, are not going to be themselves very, very skilled. They might be bigger. There's a much better chance of someone being just bigger, more powerful, and more dangerous that way than someone who's more skilled. If they're more skilled, they're not going to start fights for stupid reasons. Less likely. Much less likely if that to be the case. Because they've disciplined their body and their emotions a lot more via martial arts. So you're going to have to do something much more serious in their mind to warrant that. And yeah, someone who's bigger can be very irrational, and it's just, look, if I was, let's say you're talking about just people, we're going to leave race out of this. But let's just say I was in the inner city, I was attacked by a black guy. It crosses many of our minds. It doesn't have to be a black guy. It could be someone else, but Hispanic, white, whatever. But let's just say in this case it was a black guy, and they were probably a little bit more muscular than I was, and they were about the same height, maybe a little taller. How would I handle that situation? Well, if we're in concrete, I'd say, "Whoa, dude, hold up. I know you want to fight me. Think about this for a second. Let's go over to some grass, right? Grass. Let's go take it over to the grass, right? So there's needles and stuff in the grass in Detroit. I get that, but you're going to have a better situation for both you guys, because if one of your guys' heads lands on the concrete, it can be a done deal. You'd be dead. If you had any sense about him, he'd agree. If he's just enraged and he's going to go at it right there, take it over to the grass or just run. But if you think you can take the person, take it over to the grass. Don't fight in concrete. It's the stupidest thing in the world. It's stupid. It's life-threatening. Okay, so it's a question of how big the guy is, and it's a question of what I can kind of assess about their skill level. So this is why a lot of times it's not that someone's cautious or afraid. They're trying to. MMA fighters might not strike you immediately, or it might just take a few to several seconds for a more skilled fighter to assess someone else's real fighting ability. And that's why they do that, because they're trying to figure out, how good is this guy? So, but those of us who are less skilled, we might not see this as quickly. So, and we might be more cautious and might, be more interested in just defending ourselves and not attacking immediately. So, it all depends, but if you can tell that someone really doesn't know what they're doing, and you can kind of tell, the more experienced you are in martial arts. But you can just tell sometimes general as well, if you know what to look for. Then yeah, you'll be okay. If that person is not only bigger, but they really have been in some fights, a lot of them, so they can take a beating, and especially if they have some skill, don't even worry. Don't even risk it. A lot of people say don't even risk it anyway. Just get out of there. But you can So okay, if you're gonna fight someone who you think you can take, and it's a real fight, make sure that your strikes are as powerful as they can be, as effective as they can be, without being life-threatening. You don't want to kill someone unless you think they're gonna kill you. But if it's if someone's unarmed, elbow strikes if you get close enough. Elbow strikes, and you have to practice them. The knee strikes, yeah. Legs are great for closing distance. If it's foot strikes and stuff, but kicks and stuff. But they're not always as powerful for most people. It's really more elbow and fist. Wing Chun has an advantage that way, but in another way, Wing Chun kind of loses its effectiveness against more skilled fighters. If you know how to do the ground thing, wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? If you know that stuff, that's going to be even better. If you don't worry about it. If someone else, you don't know if someone else knows that though, they could break your arm, take you down and break your arm. So if you close the distance, you have to avoid them grabbing you. And the way to do that is by speed, and if you close, but don't stay there. It's about the longer you stay in close proximity to someone else when you're fighting, the better chance they can have if they were good at grappling to take you down and break some limbs. If they know how to grapple. So you close distance and you go back up really quickly. You don't stay there. If you suspect someone can be getting better at grappling, but you get out of there. I mean, you keep your center of gravity low. You strike where they're most vulnerable. You a lot of punches. Try not to get winded too fast. A lot of punches, a lot of elbow strikes. The leg strikes, if you know how to do it, cool. If you don't worry about the leg strikes so much. If you're a slow kicker, they can grab your leg and do bad stuff to it. So, but these are just practical things. But it's so remote that someone actually ever get a real fight. I think it's always worth it to spar with someone that's your same ability level and size and that sort of thing. And if they're bigger, but they're nice guys and they just want to help you, that's okay too. And it's also good to kind of get used to getting hit harder. That's another thing too. You gotta. This is why the advantage of a lot of guys that grew up in rough neighborhoods or in gangs is that they get hit more, so they can take a beating more. So they'll be that much more dangerous in a fight. And if you haven't been in any real fights or very few of them, you don't know what it's like to get hit really hard. That's something else to keep in mind. That's one of the things about training in martial arts is that hopefully you get some experience being in that situation. But if you don't get much experience, that's not going to be to your advantage. And that's just the plain honest truth of it. That if you want to get better at martial arts, it's going to be painful. It's not just painful just conditioning wise. It's going to be painful taking blows that are be more realistic. Maybe medium strikes, medium level strike, not just full contact. Full contact, you wear pads and stuff when you're starting out, but when you get to a certain level of conditioning and ability, when you go at someone full like hard and you're really, really powerful yourself, that's want to be very careful there. It's just a give and take. Bruce Lee said, if someone was not in top level conditioning, and even for someone his size that was a decent sparring partner for him, if they just couldn't take some kicks, he wouldn't even consider remotely going full force at them because it just couldn't. You either have a six-pack and you're really, really top condition, or you're a big guy and have a really big guy and you have a lot of just your more massive, big boned. But if you're not in either of those cases, then you need to be really careful. You try to work toward, I don't know if this is making sense, but it's just you take your random guy. I might include myself in this. I'm probably middling. I'm not that. Not an elite fighter, but not by any stretch of imagination. But take your random guys. They can only take so much before they're going to go down, and so unless you get in better condition, there's always things to improve your abilities. But you just got, these are just. I'm just being realistic here. And then the vast majority of people watching this are probably going to be in my same ballpark, give or take a bit of ability, but. Hopefully this is all good stuff and very useful. There's a lot of things to consider when you're training or you're getting ready for any situation where you have to defend yourself. But you want to have a game plan and you want to practice it. And keep in mind what you're up against. When in doubt, it's about call 911. But sometimes if you can't get your phone you have to go to self-defense. There are times when there's no other option. In that case, in order to be ready, you have to be able to read the person who's going to attack you. You have to be able to size them up. And you can't always do that 100%, but you have to, you have to immediately say, I can do this or I can't. And if you know that the guy's going to put you in the hospital, then you have to, well, the only times when you should go up against someone that you can't handle is if he's going to kill you and there's no other option, or he's going to rape someone, that kind of situation. But if he just wants money, give him the money. It's not worth your life. But this is why we have cops. And so cops are supposed to be trained to handle this stuff and supposed to be trained to respond to this stuff. And so this is why we have weapons and things. But again, you have to be ready to use them. Any bit of useful information that you can get in the subject, I think, is great. But I think it's maybe not as healthy to worry about it a whole lot. But just to be very practical about it, if I was going to go up against someone, again, my size, my training, they're probably not as trained as me, I'd probably do okay. If I was to go up against someone who is much more trained and leaner, younger, you're looking at your late teens and 20-somethings, 30-somethings also. Even older, it's just a question of conditioning. It's a question of how much damage can they take. And they've been in a lot of fights. Oh, man, he's beyond me, I'm better at other things. I don't have to base it around. That's not a part of my self-esteem. It's how good of a fighter I am. But it is to a certain extent. But there are times when you just have to say no way, unless life is in danger, someone else's life, or someone's about to rape someone, that sort of thing. So again, hopefully this is useful information. I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye.